Hello, hello. Welcome to the big show. I've just been listening to Joe Biden give his big, long policy speech about what a great job he's done. Not so sure about that. Just saying, not so sure about that, Joey boy. You know, if you'd really done a great job, you'd actually get another 4 years. But your own party had to get rid of you in this case and replace you with one Kamala Harris, who was actually imaginably even worse than you. And so here we are. You know, the media had a big hand in this. And this is why the chickens are coming home to roost, as they say, in more ways than one. Whoopi Goldberg getting the cold shoulder there at The View. They're creating a whole new program without Whoopi. The handwriting is on the wall. I'm going to get into it. I will explain. Meanwhile, Neil Cavuto, 28 years at Fox News, and bye-bye, he's gone. We're going to talk about what happened with Neil Cavuto and the guy that you've probably never heard of. I've never heard of him, and I used to work there. Who's going to be replacing Neil, but maybe there's a reason for that. You see, Fox News is hurting. They got that Smartmatic lawsuit waiting in the wings. The judge just decided that, guess what, that whole thing can move forward, and that could be very, very detrimental to the stock price and to earnings, because we're talking about, $2.6 billion that they're asking for. I mean, hey, Dominion looks like small potatoes. That was $780 million. We're talking almost $3 billion. I know it's a big company and everything, but this is bad news for Fox. We're going to get into that. Plus, Rachel Maddow's making a comeback. Well, we get lots of media news going on today. Rachel Maddow for 100 days only. Listen to this. You get to watch her every night on MSNBC. They are so desperate and they are so concerned about the direction of that network because the ratings have been tanking, collapsing. I don't know how she's going to save it. Her own ratings on Monday night have been tanking. She's getting beaten by, what's that show? Something on Adult Swim in the middle of the night. I mean, she's getting beaten by everything. But, they're desperate, so they're trying to make a comeback for Rachel Maddow. And this is all happening as we watch California, poor California, go up in flames. The situation there on the ground getting worse. One of my own producers here on this program is in the thick of it. He has lost, his family has lost, in one case, their home. Everybody has been displaced. And my heart goes out to every single person dealing with this enormous loss in California. We're going to talk about why Gavin Newsom is basically done. I mean, on the bright side, you're never going to have to worry about Gavin Newsom as the president of the United States. So listen, he can't live this down. None of them can live this down. They all need to resign now, and they need to clean house out in California and get themselves a few conservatives in charge. I'll tell you, conservatives wouldn't allow this to happen. Donald Trump was all over Gavin back in 2019. And he was telling them to fix the force and telling them to fix the water. He was even talking about it when he was running for president on his 3-hour stint with Joe Rogan. He brought this up again just a few months ago, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. All right, so we do have a lot to get to. Starting with the end of Whoopi. The end of Whoopi Goldberg. I think the handwriting at this point is on the wall. You see, The View has decided that maybe it needs to stream because, all the action's happening over here. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. I am live, so careful what you say. I see it all. Anyway, Whoopi Goldberg has just been sort of, I think, looking for this. Like maybe she wants to get ousted. All of the crazy things that she has said over the last 4 years have been kind of leading to this moment. Remember when she spat on the set when she said the former president, now newly elected president's name?
Listen, take him seriously and take him literally.
I don't think that we have to. I think it would be remiss of us to not say Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes,
he knows how to do this. He's quite good at this, and you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing? Because Trump is out there calling...
Did you say his name?
I said his name. Yeah, it was a trick and it made me do it. But I'm just saying that that Biden knows what not to do. You can't refute that man because he just spins and spins and spins.
Yeah.
All you can really do is talk about what you do and how you do what you do.
But he should do it like this. He should, while Trump was gargling less Lysol, whatever he was drinking, I was fixing infrastructure. While Trump was doing A, B, and C, I was doing this.
He was convicted of 34 counts.
Yes, 34 counts. I was repaying student loans. I mean, that way he gets to diss Trump and say what he did.
Let's also not forget that Donald Trump's out here saying Joe Biden needs to take a drug test, but I was with him in 2020. He lied to the American public, the debate commission, the Biden campaign, and to senior White House staff, and withheld that he tested positive for COVID and showed up to the debate.
Okay, we get it. They hate Trump. They really, really hate Trump. But I think that the public hates them. I really do, because how else do you explain people voting for Donald Trump when they get this daily onslaught from the ladies at The View, including one Whoopi Goldberg, who is the most aggressive at all. I mean, I didn't play all the clips, but you've heard me say it before. I mean, she's the one that came out and said, oh, Donald Trump actually deserved his assassination attempt because of his rhetoric, because of who he is. He actually kind of invited that. He deserved it. I mean, talking about shaming the victim. Come on. Well, anyway, they're coming up with a new edition of the program, a weekend show that they're going to stream because, yes, they finally figured out streaming is actually pretty darn valuable. And maybe they'd be better off streaming, given that the FCC can really come down on them rather hard. So they've come up with this idea that they're going to stream, and they're going to have a show that's going to stream on the weekends, and everybody in the show is in it, except for one person. The one that spits every time she says the president's name. Whoopi Goldberg, not part of this cast. So what does it tell you? It tells me that they are trying to phase her out. She's not the future. If streaming is the future and they're trying to create a product that can stream, they recognize that this is the one person they don't want on it. Of course, if you're really thinking about it, that's the place that you'd put her, right? Because you're not governed by the same FCC rules as you are on the ABC News network. But I think they're all kind of in jeopardy in some way, shape, or form. You have Joy Behar, who seems to recognize that she too is in jeopardy. Oh, she was out there complaining about Joe Rogan, and this idiot, Joe Rogan, he believes in dragons. And Joe was great. He's like, Joe Rogan believes in dragons. Lady, you're so worried about losing your job that somehow I represent something that's incredibly intimidating to you. Yeah, you do intimidate her, Joe. I intimidate her. Anybody who is not part of the mainstream system intimidates the likes of Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and the rest of them. So anyway, Joy's listing her place for sale, that lovely little 4,000 square foot Victorian in Sag Harbor, for $10.5 million. I'm just waiting for Letitia James to come down on this one. Letitia, where are you when we need you? I mean, you think that thing's worth 10.5? Mar-a-Lago's only 18. But somehow Joy Behar's place, 10.5, I don't think so. Hey, listen, good luck if you can get it, lady. You probably need it because you probably are going to be losing your job. I think the days of The View, at least in its current configuration, are totally over. And now how do I know that? Well, just look at the letter that Bob Iger got sent by none other than Brendan Carr, who is the new head of the FCC under Donald Trump. And you see, he's a little concerned. He's a little concerned about this erosion in public trust because the media has been lying through its teeth over and over and over again, and they're lying through their teeth on the public airwaves. And so Disney has a little bit of a problem because ABC News is on the public airwaves. I mean, it's one thing if you're cable, and they lie too, but they have a little more wiggle room to do some lying, right? They're not run or governed by the FCC. And so now the FCC send in this letter. They're not even in the seat yet. Brendan hasn't even gotten confirmed yet. He will. And he's already putting Bob Iger on notice. So what's the upshot of this? The upshot is that The View, I doubt, is going to continue on in its current configuration. In this new program, they're going to try and focus on entertainment things and lifestyle things and all these other things that aren't politics. kind of like what they were way back in the beginning. I wish them well with that. I mean, I would argue from a business perspective, you might actually want to double down on your crazy rhetoric because you can do it in a medium that's not controlled by the FCC. But, they're, as we would say, they've got their ass backwards over there. They don't seem to understand how the business actually works because they're dinosaurs. They're dinosaurs and they're living in another era where you have live studio audiences and everybody claps on command. Oh, Joy says something funny. There goes the laugh cue. Okay, now, Whoopi said this. She just spit when she said the president's name. Make sure you applaud. How crazy is that? Really and truly, just absolutely crazy. Anyway, Disney's going through a lot. Disney reportedly is considering looking at firing one of their key anchors. That would be George Stephanopoulos. Not David Muir, the guy with, the clothespins, holding back his fancy fire retardant jacket. He's just a phony, right? And they know that, I guess. But there's one George Stephanopoulos who has that weekend show. It's called This Week on ABC. And George Stephanopoulos, well, he's always been a Democrat, for goodness sakes. He was the flack for I was going to say Biden. I mean, he kind of was, right? But he was the actual flack, meaning the spokesperson at the White House for one Bill Clinton. So he's always been in bed with the Democrats. He doesn't even pretend not to be. And yet somehow he's walking around with a capital J, journalist over there on ABC. I don't think so. And so we heard over and over and over again for the last 8 years from him where he was really pushing his agenda and his viewpoint. And then Donald Trump decided to sue. And he sued and he won, or at least ABC settled. Georgie Pye was not too happy with that. No, Georgie was really, really mad. He exploded over that $16 million Trump settlement. How dare you? How dare you? Because you see, it was problematic. You see, George called Donald Trump something that was nothing short of libel and untrue. And he wasn't supposed to say it. And his producers had texted him, and this has all come out now. They told him over and over and over again, don't use this word. But what did he do? He used the word. And so now Disney has to pay $16 million, $15 million to the Trump Library, plus another $1 million to the lawyers. And that has left questions about Mr. Stephanopoulos, that's a mouthful, future over there at ABC News. And you got somebody waiting in the wings. That would be one Jonathan Karl. Not that he would be any better. I mean, my gosh, he got up there and started to say how the Democrats reminded him of Reagan. I mean, that's a bit too far, shall we say. Here we go.
Donald Trump has tried to define her. They talk about her, the Republicans, the Trump Republicans, as a San Francisco liberal, as a radical. They call her Comrade Kamala. But she gave a speech, George, that if you take out that section on abortion rights, much of this speech could have been delivered at a Republican convention before Trump. She talked tough on Iran. She promised that as commander-in-chief, America would have the most lethal and strongest fighting force in the world. She talked tough on Russia, on China. She talked about border security. She really gave a speech that was designed to go at independents, moderates, disaffected Republicans, the vast majority of undecided voters in the country. A very interesting move and quite a contrast from the way she ran for president the first time when she tried to get the nomination 4 years ago. This is a Kamala Harris that sounded a little bit more like Maggie Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, especially on national security, than like Bernie Sanders.
I don't think so. I think, buddy, you're really making a stretch there. Gosh, they so wanted her to win, didn't they? So much for that. Anyway, so the word on the street is that George's job is in jeopardy. And that guy that you just saw, Jonathan Karl, he really wants it. He got to sub this weekend in for George. I don't think he'd be any improvement. But interesting, I don't know if George can recover from everything that's happened. So if I were in charge, and I'm not, believe me, the company would be run a heck of a lot better if I was. But if I were in charge, I would say, George, you know what? You're working a zillion days a week, right? 6 days a week. Plus, you got to plan the show on Saturday. So really, you're working 7 days a week. Why don't you give yourself a break? Why don't you just do the entertainment stuff on Good Morning America? That's about your speed. And why don't we find somebody else to handle the political show? Because you've already tipped your hat, you've tipped your hand. Everybody knows where you stand. You hate Trump, and we can't go into the next 4 years dealing with that saga all over again. So if Bob Iger's smart, and sometimes I question it, but fundamentally I think he is. He's a good businessman, right? He kind of screwed up a few things along the way, including his relationship with one Elon Musk. Oh, Elon can't stand him. So I think if he were smart here, he's smart enough to know that he had to settle with Donald Trump, then he will actually make a move and get rid of George Stephanopoulos on the weekend show. Again, Jonathan Karl is ready, willing, and able to jump into action. So he may get the gig. Wouldn't that be interesting? Oh, we have so much to get to today. We got to talk about Fox. Is this the end of Fox? And who's this guy replacing Neil Cavuto? But before I get to that, a quick shout out for one of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show, and that would be American Heart for Gold. Right now, you can get up to $15,000 in free silver. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Just text my name, Trish, to 65532 to learn more. Text Trish to 65532 to learn more. You can call them at 1-844-495-1115. Again, it's 1-844-495-1115, or just go to trishlovesgold.com. Gold dipped a little bit today, so I was actually looking at buying some myself. I tend to go in when gold goes lower, the whole idea, buy low, sell high. I kind of live by that. So I've been watching the market very, very carefully the last couple of days as a result. But gold is one of those that I kind of like to get when it's around the $2,500 mark. And it's been hard to find it there because it's been climbing up into the 2,600. And, by the way, I'm somebody who never sells my gold because I feel that it's incredibly important for my future, for my family's future, to have that kind of hedge against inflation. And gold is one of the best ways to do that. So go check it out there at trishlovesgold.com, or just text my name, Trish, to 65532. Here's a question. Is this actually going to be the end of Fox? I mean, Fox News already went through HELL and back with Dominion. I don't really have any pity for them, shall we say. We have a bit of a history. But I do think that they have some morons working there that got them in this position in the first place, because clearly their chief legal counsel didn't know what the HELL he was doing, and he should have settled way back. Now, as a journalist, I don't like the idea of settlement. Believe me. I mean, I'm looking at it going, why did they settle? Why? You should take this thing all the way to court. Apparently, Rupert Murdoch wanted to settle with Dominion early on. And this legal guy who used to work for Bush was like, no, he was effectively running the company. We're going to fight this, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the First Amendment advocate in me loves and appreciates that they wanted to fight it. But business-wise, if I'm an investor in this company, I'm looking at it and go, oh, this is not good. And what did they wind up paying? Some $780 million. Well, now they're on round 2. And this one's actually even a bigger deal. This is a company called Smartmatic, and they said a bunch of things about Smartmatic that got them into a whole lot of trouble. And so now they're facing a $2.7 billion defamation claim. This is much larger than the defamation claim that was made by Dominion. So can Fox handle it? Sure. I mean, Fox is a big company. They make well over $1 billion a year from Fox News. Fine. But it's a hit. I mean, clearly it'd be a massive hit. Would their insurance cover it? I'm not so sure, especially if it comes out that the executives truly were at fault, which is what Smartmatic would want to prove. And so this could be enormously problematic for Fox News, and it could make it very, very hard for them to continue retaining top talent that costs money. I'm thinking Hannity. I'm thinking Laura. I'm thinking, I don't know if Gutfeld is up in that region, and Jesse Waters certainly isn't. I mean, Tucker was making a lot. Anybody who was making a lot, I think, is making a lot, is in a very vulnerable spot right now. So, of course, they had to get rid of one Neil Cavuto, and they're replacing him with somebody that you probably never heard of, but it's cost effective, right? Just let's keep the lights on because we may have a $2.7 billion defamation claim bill to pay. Now, let me take a step back and say, as a journalist, I hate this stuff, okay? Like, I don't like this. I don't like them getting sued. I think that as a journalist, you know, you're trying to get to the story. You're trying to figure things out. Information comes in, and especially on live television, you don't always have the ability to vet it from here to kingdom to come, and all of this is happening in real time. And so you've got to somehow prove, if you're Smartmatic, and I guess Dominion was able to do this well enough, you've got to somehow prove that this was deliberate, like deliberate negligence. And if that's the case, I'm a shareholder saying, I'm going to sue you guys because what the heck are you doing asleep at the switch, leaving us vulnerable to something like Smartmatic. So when I say it could possibly be the end of the company, I'm just saying, like, if they get hit with the Smartmatic thing and the judge has decided that this can move forward and there's a huge bill to pay there, what are shareholders to do? Shareholders are going to in turn sue them. And so then Fox is going to get sued again. And like, it just never ends, right? So if they're able to prove that this was deliberate and that management somehow encouraged this point of view because it rated, regardless of whether it was real or not, then they have a problem. They already seem to be having problems, right? I think this is why, you know, they made a move on Tucker. They made a move. Oh, they didn't want all the stuff coming out that I guess would have come out. Some people speculated, was there a backroom deal? Could have been. Remember Chuck Schumer insisting that Tucker had to go? I mean, think about what happened to me when I dared to say, you know, this COVID thing is getting a little out of hand. The market's tanking 2,000 points in one day, and CNN is changing it into their plain story. Oh, no. You know, suddenly the same thing happened to me that happened to Tucker. I should have warned him, right? You know, you think you're going on air on Monday and all of a sudden something else comes your way. So this is how they play ball. It's just business. I mean, hey, you know what? We all move on. And it turned out for me to be a heck of a lot better. Trust me. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, all that. Hey, we're up above 500,000. It's amazing here on YouTube. It is amazing. It's so good to be part of this new medium. Trust me. But what I'm saying is that the company itself is facing a lot of concerns and a lot of pressure, not just from Smartmatic, but, you know, they've got some relief in that Trump is in there. And so they don't have Chuck Schumer breathing down their back to the same extent, but they'll continue. They'll continue. Thank you, Jack Straw, for all your support out there in Which Guy. I just saw the super chat. Much, much, much appreciated. Thank you to all you guys, by the way, for subscribing, sharing. Make sure you do that. Here's Neil Cavuto. And Neil had been there 28 years. And I know Neil didn't really like Trump. And Neil kind of made that very, very clear over and over again. And so Neil's ratings would go like right into the tank. Like every day, you know, you'd have the show at 3 o'clock before him. You'd have a show at 5 o'clock, the 5. But the 5 had to climb back from a pretty challenging position that they were in because of the ratings at 4 o'clock. And I think that Fox figures, hey, we can save a lot of money. We don't have to pay this guy as much. And, you know, maybe he won't tick off the viewers the way Neil did. I'm going to tell you something. Neil's a really nice guy. Really, really nice guy. I worked with him there a number of years. And while we may not have seen eye to eye on all our political beliefs, I can tell you, assure you, he's a very good person. I think he just wasn't in sync with the viewership. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe he can go someplace where he will be in sync. But I want to play you his goodbye because it seemed rushed. It seemed fake. It seemed phony. It seemed like, you know, there was effectively a gun to his head and they're like, you read this now. And that's what they do, right? Because probably he's still getting paid, something like that. So he kind of has to play ball. Here's Neil Cavuto.
This is it, the final segment. But today I also wanted to let you know this is my final show. I am leaving Fox. I've been planning this day for some time. This just seemed like a good time. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, nearly it's about time. After all, I've been doing this for nearly 3 decades here. You know, there are people working with me now who weren't even born when I started at Fox. That's how old I am. But I'm not leaving journalism. I'm just leaving here. But I'm forever grateful to my bosses here. They've been very good to me these many years and offered a very generous opportunity for me to stay years more. That's pretty amazing considering the fact that, I don't know, I might have missed a day or two here and there, battling everything from multiple sclerosis and COVID to countless infections, even open heart surgery. Then there were all of those awful series of hangnails. Don't get me started on that one. I might have been unlucky in health, but very lucky for the support I got here and the things I got to do here, because I got to do what I love to do, report the news, not shout the news, not blast the news, not, well, call names, just call balls and strikes, following the news, to hold truth to power and fairness to all. That's it. That's me. But while you see me, you really don't see the people behind me, the producers and writers and cameramen and directors across 3 shows all these years carrying me, and that can be a pretty heavy lift. So blame them if I said something that ticked you off, and apparently I did a lot. But now I'm off and saving my biggest thanks for last, for you. All of you who've allowed me into your homes all of these years. My dad used to tell me, Neil, stay humble because in your case it will come in handy. I don't think he'd have ever imagined my incredible run, but I do think he'd remind me to thank those who made it possible. All of you. Okay, truth be told, most of you. I'm leaving out the nasty ones who called me fat, forgetting, as I often said, that the camera adds 50 pounds, until one dude saw me in person and said, you know, Neil, it wasn't the camera. Or those who email that I do things that I think were anatomically impossible to do. I got a kick out of those. Actually, I got a kick out of them all. Let's just say you kept me grounded. My Irish mom used to say we should count our blessings and never forget who blessed us. In the end, that should be our focus, and that is mine tonight. Not all the stuff that divides us or the nastiness that embitters us, but the far more important stuff that unites us and defines us and lifts us. I tried to appeal to those better angels, and I'm grateful you gave me that chance. That is why I say goodbye with only good thoughts and good wishes. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful holiday season. May the new year be as fulfilling for you as these nearly 30 incredible years you've blessed me. That means a lot. You do too. Thank you, and good night.
That was sweet, right? You know, classy way to end things. You guys are asking if I would read the super chats. So yeah, we'll do that at the end of the show, perhaps. Jeff Poor, thank you for that. You're beautiful, kind-hearted, great broadcast. Wonderful. I so appreciate that. Anyway, we'll get to some of the super chats later in the program, but you heard from Neil, okay? So they're putting in this other guy named Will Kane. Now, again, I used to work there. I have no idea who this guy is. Do you? I mean, I don't really watch Fox on the weekends. So he's like a weekend host on Fox and Friends, and he's going to depart his morning role. He's going to take over the 4 p.m. weekday slot at the network. And yeah, you got me. So I'm guessing he comes pretty cheap. So that's a good thing for Fox because, you know, they got a lot going on. $2.7 billion in a defamation claim that they're going to be facing. So Neil, I'm sure, was a pretty penny. So maybe they can make it work with this guy, Will Kane, a conservative pundit who is on the weekend program. Getting a bit of a bump, 4 p.m. every day. Hey, the pressure's on. Listen, buddy, if you can't deliver for Jesse, Jesse's not going to have it. Jesse wants good ratings going into the 5. I know, you guys are not going to miss Cavuto. I see it. I hear you. Listen, you know, and it's one of the reasons why you want to be in the right place. It's the reason why I like it over here, because you know what? If you don't like what I'm saying, you don't have to watch, right? Whereas if you're at a network, the network has an overall viewpoint and gets ratings that people tune in for a certain expectation. And that makes it pretty limiting if you're somebody who doesn't really have that viewpoint on the world. And so I think that was actually a tough reality for one Neil Cavuto. Anyway, we'll see if Fox can make it. I'm not entirely sure. I think that there's going to be a lot of cost cutting. It's not part of the new medium. They're trying. Their Fox streaming business, however, is not doing very well. And so they are sort of stuck in this old line business, which has printed money for so long. And by the way, we'll continue to print money. So I'm not saying it goes away. I just don't know as it's going to look the same. I don't know if they're going to be able to afford the same kind of talent and the same kind of production staff that they have in the past. And I wish them no ill will. I had a very, very nice time there for the years that I was there. But I do think that they're being met with certain challenges that they may not have anticipated. I don't know if the family can figure this out either, because that's a whole other saga, right? They're all suing each other. And there's a difference in the core belief, political belief of many members of the family vis-a-vis the guy, Lachlan Murdoch, who's expected to take over. And he may not have the kind of say when daddy goes, right? And daddy's not getting any younger. All right, let's turn to MSNBC because the whole media is messed up these days, is it not? What a disaster. Everywhere you look, MSNBC executives, they are in a real state of panic. I mean, a real state of panic. And the reason for that is because ratings are just hemorrhaging. They can't get out of their own way. They're down at least 50%. They're losing people every single day. Same story over at CNN. The only one who's actually doing anything is Fox. So MSNBC is struggling. So what is the answer? Well, number one, they're going to spin themselves off in this SpinCo. Tax advantages to doing it. And guess what? Then Comcast doesn't have to be burdened with this ugly, nasty company that's always getting them in trouble. One Joy Reid, another Joe Scarborough. You know, they're always in some kind of mess with their talents. So now they don't have to worry about that. Good, fine. Plus, it's a dying business. Who wants to be in it? But they're so worried about whether or not they're going to be able to attract enough attention and get enough momentum with Donald Trump in office that, dun, 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 they decided to bring back one, Rachel Maddow. Good luck with that. So Rachel Maddow's coming in. She's going to return to her nightly programs, you know, her big shindig, and probably like do guest appearances on others for the first 100 days of the Trump administration. Well, that'll be exciting. We'll have something to talk about. It's always interesting to see how the conspiracy theorists think on the other side of the aisle. And this woman is like chief conspiracy theorist. I was always amazed. Like, having worked at Fox and now working here, and there's all this, oh, you know, you guys are nothing but a bunch of cheap fakes because you show that video of Joe Biden clearly suffering as he was in a mental decline. He did a good job, by the way, on his foreign policy speech today, but for the most part, Joe Biden is over, right? And the job was too hard for him, and he's too old for it, et cetera. And occasionally we'd show these videos, and I always showed you the full clips, but no, somehow I'm the cheap fake, while Rachel Maddow can go down all of these various rabbit holes day after day after day, leading you into conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. I mean, I remember the Russia. Oh, and all her excitement over getting his tax forms. I mean, this woman could weave, I'll give her this, a hell of a story together. I mean, she was very talented at that. Conspiratorial, on steroids, and no one called her out for it. No, they would just say she's brilliant. I'm like, brilliant? This is a bunch of nonsense. You'll call Tucker out. You'll call me out. But Rachel Maddow is somehow above the law? Like, I mean, she was, you know, no-go territory. Couldn't say anything about Rachel. So guess what? Gear up for it. She's getting ready. I mean, just a few weeks ago, she was out there with this conspiratorial garbage about Donald Trump's cabinet. Pete Hegseth, by the way, is going to be there on Capitol Hill tomorrow. I expect he's going to get confirmed. I really do. And then they can all eat, you know what? Here we go.
Used to say it's a sort of Leninist project, right? Destroy the state. This is the cabinet that you nominate to not to run the U.S. government to do anything, but to destroy the U.S. government so that the U.S. government can be fundamentally reimagined as something much more like a unitary, authoritarian, or autocratic, for lack of a better term, system.
Okay. Really? I guess she said this before California happened. Because you want to talk about destroying a state. Destroying the lives of so many individuals. Sure, there are plenty of elite, wealthy Hollywood types. There are plenty of people that don't have much at all, that also had their lives ruined. They are starting over with nothing. So that's how you destroy a state, by having incompetent leaders. And believe me, California is filled with incompetent leaders. We're going to get to that after I talk a little bit more about the media. We have to get to that because it's just disgusting what's going on. And not only that, they're like trying to profit off of it. Gavin Newsom, seriously, trying to profit for his own political career. He's raising money for his super PAC while telling you it's going to the California fires. Gross, gross, gross. It's like the grossest thing I've ever seen in politics. But so is this woman. All right, so is this woman, Rachel Maddow, saying, oh, you got to be scared now because journalists, they're going down in this new regime. Listen to her.
The free press needs to give the people of this country assurances that they will not become state TV, that they will stand and fight together. They will put aside rivalries and petty professional differences. They will stand and fight together as the free press, as the fourth estate, as an institution that is a pillar of our democracy, as these guys on the other side inevitably start picking off individual journalists, individual publishers, individual news organizations to try ultimately to turn us all into some American accented version of RT.
Really? Kind of like you guys tried to pick off me or Tucker or Steve Hilton or Lou Dobbs or anyway, I mean, like the left has an organization called Media Matters that does nothing but pay people to look at everything a conservative anchor says on television and take it out of context. And so this is all they do. Like there's a guy's job, his entire job was to just listen to what Trish Regan had to say every night to see if they could somehow misinterpret it and cause hell for Fox. And I don't think it was actually ever me. Think about it that way. Like, I can take solace in, it was never me necessarily that was the problem. I guess it was just Fox. Well, I don't know. I scared some people for sure. I think I still do. Denmark included. We'll have to talk about Greenland soon. Anyway, the reality is, for some reason, they keep going after those on the right while those on the left get a pass. And then Rachel comes out and says something like this. I mean, she can't get a pass anymore. Okay, Joy Reid can't get a pass anymore. These Whoopi Goldbergs of the world cannot get a pass anymore. It is time that, yes, everybody call them out because you know what? If you don't call them out, guess who continues getting a pass? The likes of Gavin Newsom, the likes of Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, who for some reason felt like it was more important to be in Ghana to celebrate the inauguration of the new Ghana president, as opposed to actually being with her people as these massive winds were pouring in. What a disgusting display, really, from them. I mean, it's nauseating. But, you know, it's all about DEI, DEI, DEI. It's one of the reasons I created 76 Research, my financial research company. I encourage you guys to go take a look at it. Look at these holdings. A lot of really good holdings. It's getting a little tricky right now. I get it. You know what? People are nervous. Valuations are very high. So we're going into the new year here in 2025. So how do you invest? Go check it out, 76research.com. It just costs $1 a month with code word dollar, DOLLAR. It is my company that I started with a very dear friend, Rob Horton. Go check it out because we've got lots of ideas for you. We're publishing actually a new piece today on housing, which is sort of interestingly timed alongside the fires. And, you know, can you invest in home builders? Which home builders would you be looking at, et cetera, right now? And that's, again, just $1 a month. You can cancel anytime, so you're not out anything. Just DOLLAR is the code word, 76research.com. So I'm going to just say, Letitia James, watch out. Juan Merchan, watch out. Arthur Erdogan, the judge in the Letitia James case where they're trying to make Donald Trump pay nearly $500 million or $500 million because Erdogan and Letitia seem to know the valuation of Mar-a-Lago better than the bank itself that made the loan. Erdogan, watch out. Fannie Willis, watch out. Alvin Bragg, watch out. Jack Smith, who just officially resigned in shame, watch out. Kash Patel, who is Donald Trump's pick for the FBI, just went on TV and promised this.
I mean, this is so unprecedented. It's just amazing that he would say that.
It's shockingly unconstitutional, Trace. It's great to be with you, and I'm here to announce on your show a measure that I'm working with Congress that should be Congress's bread and butter. And I'm calling for the subpoenas to be issued to Judge Merchant's daughter's company, who made $15+ million from the illicit information pouring out of her father's courtroom. I want to know the bank records, because money doesn't lie. Yep. I want to know how deep it is and how much of it went to the family and how much of it is going to the family after this false conviction. And then we need to investigate the FEC actual violations that this judge and his family conducted, because he should never have been overseeing this trial to begin with, because of the illicit campaign money that was flowing through there, and the unconstitutional due process violations are only the beginning. So America is calling for accountability of our judicial system, and Congress is the only lever that has it, and I'm hoping for 1 or 2 brave members of Congress that I'm talking to issue those subpoenas ASAP.
Wow. Okay. Yes. You know what? I'm not vindictive. And Donald Trump's not vindictive. And Pam Bondi and Kosh, nobody's vindictive here. But we do believe in getting to the bottom of what went down. And you know why that's important? Because this matters for either side. I don't care if you're left or right. If we live in a world where they can use the legal system against you, just like they've used it against one Donald Trump. And like, don't kid yourself. That's exactly what Letitia James was doing. She was basing her entire political career off of going and getting Donald Trump. She told us over and over and over and over and over again.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered, and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
Oh, well, we see how that DEI has really worked out for you out in California. But Letitia James should not be able to do that. She should not be able to campaign on this vendetta. We can't have vendetta against politicians. How the heck are you ever going to get anybody to run for office? I mean, he was unique. He had the money. He had the ability to do what he did. But you know what? Most people, ladies and gentlemen, would never put themselves or their family through that. So we need a better system. We can't have these kind of lawfare tactics. They are far too dangerous. And guess what? Letitia's going to find that out pretty darn soon, at least by the Court of Appeals. One judge, David Friedman, when listening to the case, was sitting there going, well, what the heck do we do? How do we make sure that we don't have attorney generals that are wielding so much power and using it so maliciously? Remember when he said this?
You're pointing to Ernst & Young. You're pointing to First American. Ernst & Young, you're dealing with the collapse of Lehman Brothers. First American, you're dealing with an action brought against an appraiser who overvalued properties at the behest of a lender, perpetrating a scheme to induce unsophisticated consumers into taking out home loans that they could not afford. It hardly seems that justifies bringing an action to protect Deutsche Bank against President Trump, which is what you have here. I mean, you've got two really sophisticated parties in which no one lost any money, and that was the point of my initial question. Every case that you cite involved where there was damage to consumers, damage to the marketplace. You've got a scheme to get unsophisticated consumers to take out home loans. You got a collapse of Lehman Brothers. You don't have anything like that here.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, the statute doesn't require that whatsoever for liability. And the statute is written broadly because the legislature wants the Attorney General to go in and stop fraud and illegality.
Counsel, I think you hear underneath all these questions the question of mission creep. Has 6312 morphed into something that it was not meant to do? And that's something you must address, because there has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do in interfering in these private transactions, as Justice Friedman said, that where people don't claim harm. So what is the limiting principle?
Right? What's the limiting principle? I mean, if she can just go wild here, if she can jump in when there is no victim and say, I believe there was a crime, if she can say, I think Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, even though it's making income of something like $56 million a year, and normally you would trade based on some kind of valuation. I mean, if she can say that, what does that say about our entire system? So when Kash Patel says he wants to go after these people and understand the financial incentives, I'm all with him. If Judge Merchan's daughter made $15 million raising money off of daddy's lawsuit in court, then did any of that money go back to Merchan himself? I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, just think about it. Like, wouldn't you, as a logical person, the father of a daughter, hey, I'd be proud, you know what, you're not working for my team if she was mine, but you're making $15 million. Okay, honey, you're standing great on your own 2 feet. I'm a judge in New York. Maybe I'm pulling in 200, 250. And my daughter's making $15 million. So I'm like, okay, you know what? What would be appropriate for me in this particular position? It would be appropriate for me to bow out and say, you know what? This is a little too close to home, a little too much conflict of interest. But this egomaniac, and that's what he is. That's what they all are. Egomaniacs. This egomaniac sat there and said, no, I'm going to listen to this. And then I am going to make sure I get a conviction, even though there's no alleged crime. I'm telling you, this will go back to the appeals court. This will get kicked out. The Merchan one, the Arthur Erdogan one. Well, that's just a whole bizarre thing. So I don't know if you guys have been following this, but Arthur Erdogan, he is the judge in the Letitia James case, all right? And in this particular case, he's the one that was A-OK. He actually upped the fine from, I think she wanted like $248 million or $300 and some odd million. Obscene, ridiculous. And he upped it to a whopping $500 million, nearly $500 million. I mean, gosh, right? So they clearly are trying to bankrupt him in some way, shape, or form. That's what they wanted. Letitia and this judge combined. Remember? I mean, she said this. She's like, well, we'll take his assets. She just couldn't wait to go over there to Trump Tower and be like, I own this now. New York owns this. We're taking it away from Donald Trump. That was her goal. That was her goal. And she says she's not backing down.
I will not fear Donald Trump. I have steel in my backbone. And the reality is I will not allow this person, Donald Trump, who unfortunately is a broken man, to get in the way of progress and to separate us.
And so now I got to ask you about the future.
Her point was, I have steel in my backbones. I'm not backing down. I'm not going anywhere. Well, Mike Davis, one of the attorneys for Donald Trump, had a few things to say about that.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not effing around.
They're not. You see, one of the advantages of coming in now, Benny's right, is that they've been there, done that. They saw what happened in the first go around, right? So this isn't their first rodeo, as they like to say. They know what can happen, and they're not going to allow it to happen. Instead, they're going on offense. I remember talking to Donald Trump off record, actually, but it wasn't really off record. He wouldn't mind me saying this. I think he's even said this publicly. I was like, why didn't you go after Hillary Clinton? You kept talking about it on the campaign trail. And he was like, we're not Latin America. I don't want to be Latin America. I don't want to be some banana republic. I'm not going to do that. Well, what happened? They went after him. So he knows that. And my whole point is this is not about one side or the other, but just preserving the sanctity of our institutions, including political offices, so that you're not immediately just thrown to the wolves with the media, by the way, in tow, ready to do all the bidding. That's what happened. And we can't allow that to happen again. And if it means Letitia going to jail, damn it, you know what? She should. She should be disbarred for sure. These judges, they should lose their licenses. They are giving the New York legal system a horrendous, horrendous name. Heck, I mean, Alvin Bragg didn't even want to bring the case. Why? He didn't have jurisdiction. He couldn't bring it. And Jack Smith looked at it. He would have had jurisdiction. And he said, well, no, I can't do this. There's not a case there. So if you don't have a case, why are you bringing a case other than for political reasons, which means all of you need to go bye forever. You don't belong in this legal system. I'm disgusted by these crazy, awful people. Really, really awful people. Because you know what it leads to? More awfulness like we're seeing unfold in the state of California right now. One Gavin Newsom is, I predict, going to have to resign. And if he doesn't resign, he's going to get thrown out by special election. Yeah, they have those in California. They do have those in California. Before I get to that, another shout out for our friends over at American Heart for Gold. You can get up to $15,000 worth of free silver with an initial purchase of gold right now if you call 1-844-495-1115 or you go to trishlovesgold.com, trishlovesgold.com, because I do. Or you could just text my name, Trish, to 65532, 65532. Text TRISH for more information about how you get up to $15,000 in free silver. Listen, I think gold is one of those things that you want to be in right now because any which way you slice it, and I have such optimism about this administration, all the great things they're going to do. But the reality is we still have a lot of outstanding debt. You still have a desire by so many emerging market countries to try to find another way to solve their problems, and they want to wean themselves off of U.S. treasuries. Why? Because, well, you know, look what we did to Russia. Any day of the week, we can say, you know what, we're not going to honor those treasuries. And so then you lose your money. So consequently, they want something else. And it's why you see them stockpiling gold. So take a look at it, 1-844-495-1115, or go to trishlovesgold.com today. Gavin Newsom is either going to have to resign or he will be called out in a special election. That is my prediction right now because I have never seen such incompetence. It is truly a shame what has happened to that beautiful state. I used to live there, actually, in San Francisco. I used to call it Sucks Francisco, though. That was my nickname. Not very nice of me, I know, especially given that I was a local news anchor there, but I really didn't like it. It started off bad. Day one, they had that Beta Breakers race where people are running naked in the street, and the video is all coming into the newsroom, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, excuse me. And they're like, oh yeah, just make sure that you like blur out any parts that shouldn't be seen. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like this is like some kind of hazing joke. They're like, no. And they were proud of it, proud of their naked race. They were proud of their homelessness. They didn't want to deal with any of these things. I'm like, okay, get me out of here. I'm not raising a family here. Thank you very much. I need to move back to the East Coast. And we did. But what I would say is that it is a beautiful place. And I used to think, what a shame that it's so messed up. And this was a zillion years ago, right? This is back in the year 2000. The tech bubble had just burst. I remember you couldn't even get a U-Haul truck. It was good timing for us, though, because we were trying to find an apartment, and the rates on the rents were going, woohoo, way, way, way down. But I never liked it. I just never liked it. I thought, you know, this could be great, but the place is so messed up. And like I said, that was 25 years ago. So now just imagine what's going on. It's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And so now Gavin Newsom is going to have to face the music. Gavin Newsom must resign, or there needs to be a special election. They got rid of Governor Davis that way. They can get rid of Gavin Newsom that way. I'll just tell you, look, Trump tried to warn Gavin. He tried to warn the lawmakers in California this. It's like he's incredibly prescient. He even talked about this on Joe Rogan's show just a couple of months before the election. This has been a big cause of his. Nobody would listen. People laughed when he talked about the forest back in 2019. I'm going to show you this clip. But first, hear what he had to say the other day about how he tried to convince Gavin to do a deal on the water 5 years ago.
Gavin Newsom had an opportunity to have millions of gallons a week, a day, millions and millions of gallons come down from the north. And I was able to get him federal approval from that, from the Department of Commerce of all departments. I didn't realize it would go through Commerce. I would have thought environmental, but it goes through Commerce. I got all of the approvals, and he said, I don't want to sign it. I don't want the water. We don't need the water. I said, you need the water. Your reservoirs are empty, the whole place. You need the water. That was 5 years ago. And I had it all done. The work was all done. We sent it to him. He refused to sign it. And if you noticed yesterday, the hydrants were empty. They didn't have any water, many of them. They said 20%, but now I just heard 50%, and now none of them have water, and that fire is still raging. When he turned that down, I was going to give him unlimited water. It would come down. It really comes down from the north, way up north, including parts of Canada. It's so much water that they wouldn't know what to do with. Just the opposite would have happened. And that's the reason that this happened. He wouldn't do what we wanted. And we're going to force that upon him now. But it's very late, because I think it's one of the great catastrophes in the history of our nation. This is not just in Los Angeles. I've never seen anything like that, devastation. And we're talking about homes that cost $200, $300, $400 million. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. People that, and very influential people worldwide. I don't know that they ever go back either, because you know, they weren't happy with California. They weren't happy with Gavin Newsom. They weren't happy with their whole lifestyle there, with the crime being out of control, all the other problems. They were not happy. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not they're going to build, or whether somebody else is going to build and build a much lesser home. These were the most expensive homes outside of Palm Beach County. I see a list outside of Palm Beach. These were the most expensive homes anywhere in the world. And I think a lot of them are just not going to go back and build it. Plus, they don't want to be part of a construction site. They don't want to, they're building a home, another one's building, they're building in front of them, behind them, alongside of them. So I think it's a tragedy. I think it's an incredible tragedy. It's also a tragedy for a tax base. And the governors know exactly what I'm talking. And I'd like to hear anybody talk about that. But if you're the governor of a state and you lost thousands of very rich people that were paying a lot of taxes and weren't happy about it, and weren't happy about what's happened to California, which has all the advantages of greatness, but they've had horrible politicians. I think that Gavin is largely incompetent, and I think the mayor is largely incompetent, and probably both of them are just stone cold incompetent. What they've done is terrible.
It's unbelievably terrible. So Donald Trump, he's warned of a lot of things. I'll tell you a story quickly. You know how we worry about our grid? I've done a lot of reporting on the grid. And the guy who's like in charge of the congressional testimony, he told me, he's the lead scientist on this stuff, that no other, he's been in Washington for many years, no other president ever called him. Donald Trump called him up and said, come in, I want to talk to you about the grid. And he's like, this is amazing, right? Like, you know, there's a responsibility that goes with being a chief executive. That for whatever reason, too many of these governors, Democrat mayors just don't seem to understand. I will tell you this, though, that Donald Trump, perhaps because of his business background, as an entrepreneur himself, he gets it more than even your Republican governors all around. He really gets it. And sometimes I think it's, you know, one of my friends lived in this building in New York, the same building that Ivanka, his daughter, lived in. And she said it was so spotlessly clean. Like, he takes it very seriously, right? The place was well run because it's him. And he takes a certain pride in that. So I do think that having him come in, thank goodness, right? You know, we're just sitting here waiting. We can't wait for January 20th. But you're going to have an adult in charge who passionately cares about making sure our country is safe and taken care of. I mean, whether you're talking about getting the water situation fixed or getting the forest fires under control through better forestation. I mean, why weren't we doing that? Remember the fires that they had just a couple of years ago? It's not like these things came out of nowhere. They didn't. And back in 2019, Donald Trump traveled out there and warned them they got to find a better system.
It's cleaned out and protected. You got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out.
Well, it didn't totally work out, right? Because no, they didn't look into it and they didn't take his advice. And there were a lot of people that laughed at him at the time, but he was right. But you have such incompetence. The mayor, Karen Bass, was out there trying to take money, $17 million that she got from the fire department, and she's moving it over to these DEI initiatives. She's trying to take money from one thing that you actually need, right? The services that you actually need. I'm sorry. Look, I'm a taxpayer, and I have a certain expectation. When I pay my taxes, I ought to be able to walk down the street and not confront homeless people everywhere like you do in California. I have an expectation that when there's a fire, that the fire trucks will show up. But, oh, gosh, I shouldn't have those expectations, not if I live in California. Here's the assistant fire chief, Christine Larson, who's basically saying, hey, you dummy, if you get yourself in a fire, don't come calling me. Seriously, I thought this was parody. I showed you this, guys, some of you on Friday last week, but we got to see it again and just think about the insanity of this DEI, very proud, lesbian, black woman. You know what? I don't care. I don't care if you're lesbian. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're male or female, but there's some certain prerequisites, right, for the job that she just doesn't seem to think she has to follow because it's all how you look. I mean, when you're getting rescued on the ladder, gosh darn it, you need somebody who looks just like you, right? Not.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives.
No. I just want somebody who can save me. Thank you.
That person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which.
Yeah, you know what? I like that you would be able to carry my husband out of a fire. This is the most unbelievable one to me of all.
My response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Oh, honey. Oh, honey. Okay, you see? So apparently they're not really trying to fight fires there. No, they're too absorbed with other stuff. I mean, here's the fire chief of LA. She's wearing her DEI stuff on her sleeve. That was the assistant fire chief. And you know what? I'm going to commend her for this. At least she was trying to get more money out of the mayor, Karen Bass, who didn't want to give it to her. And then there were rumors over the weekend that Karen was firing her because she dared to speak up and say, hey, yeah, we didn't have the resources we needed. Thank goodness she's willing to speak up. But again, I'm just saying, the priorities are kind of wacky.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
Unbelievable. Okay, unbelievable. Now, we can Monday morning quarterback, and a lot of that needs to be done. I do think that they had their priorities completely out of line. They should have been focused on the hydrants, many of which they couldn't get water out of, hydrants that were broken. They didn't have the water. They didn't have the infrastructure. They don't have the ability to fight this. But all they're concerned about right now is getting as much money as they can to rebuild. And Joe Biden said, hey, we're here, ready, able, willing to deliver. It's curious, considering there was only $750 for each victim of the hurricanes in Republican Tennessee, Florida, and North Carolina. But Hollywood gets whatever Hollywood wants, as they say. Here's Gavin saying we need to rebuild because we got the Super Bowl coming up. We got the Olympics coming up. We got all this stuff coming up, to which I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have any of it coming up. Maybe we need to take it away from these crazy Democrat-run states and send it to Texas and send it to Florida and send it to Tennessee or North or South Carolina, any place that can actually manage their state.
For the course of the next several years, Los Angeles will be host to the World Cup and then the Super Bowl and then the Olympics. With this rebuilding effort needing to take place, is LA going to be ready for all of those global events?
My humble position, and it's not just being naively optimistic, that only reinforces the imperative moving quickly, doing in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. President of the United States, Donald Trump, to his credit, was helpful in getting the Olympics to the United States of America, to get it down here in LA. We thank him for that. This is an opportunity for him to shine, for this country to shine, for California and this community to shine. The opportunity with all of that and all that opportunity and that pride and spirit that comes from not just hosting those three iconic games and venues, but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team looking and reimagining LA 2.0, and we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan? Tell us about this Marshall Plan.
We're just starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fires. So we're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders and nonprofits. We're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy for recovery, how we can organize the region, how we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly, but also federal assistance for the recovery efforts, and how we can galvanize the community with folks that love this community to really develop a mindset so that at scale we're dealing with the scope of this tragedy and responding to it at scale with efficiency, like the executive order I talked about, time value of delivering projects, addressing building codes, addressing permitting issues, and moving forward to rebuilding and being more resilient.
I mean, is it gross or what? He's kind of gross. And wait until you see what I found about the money he's trying to raise for himself and his own super PAC. You can't imagine anything more gross at a moment like this. But yeah, he's out there panhandling, trying to get money from Biden, trying to get money. Look, I'm not going to begrudge Californians the right to rebuild, but I am going to say this. Why is it that there was no money? FEMA was, oh my gosh, we can't get FEMA in the door when it's Florida. I mean, there are families that are still displaced down in Florida, in St. Pete's, for example. I know some. Or what about North Carolina or Tennessee, these places that were ravaged, right? Nobody seems to care about them. But the DEI idiots that couldn't find their way out of a paper bag, that couldn't actually manage to get the water into the hydrants and pump it in time, oh no, we're going to do everything we can for them. Just think through it. Again, I don't begrudge anyone anything, but I think the politicization of all of this is pretty damn disgusting. Where was Biden when Florida needed him? Nowhere. Here, he's like, I'll write a blank check. You know, the DEI stuff has got to go, and part of it starts at the educational level. I mean, it's unbelievable what they're trying to teach in school, and you know what? You keep breeding a group of people that all have this group think, right? They all think the same way. They got to have their pronouns out there and this, that, and the other. It's bad. It's just bad, and it's starting in our nation's public schools, and it continues on up through the university system. This is why I'm really proud to announce my new partnership with the Herzog Foundation, because the Herzog Foundation is all about getting rid of all that nonsense. Forget the DEI. Let's think about what we are as a country, a meritocracy, a beautiful capitalist meritocracy. And how do we keep that going? We need educated students that can think for themselves, that understand the importance of personal responsibility. And you know what? You're not going to get that in the public schools. Not now, anyway. I mean, it needs to change. But they got all these progressive ideologies that are capturing these teachers. No one wants to work. They all wish they could be back on Zoom. But you know what? You don't see that in the Christian schools. No, in the Christian schools, you actually see a commitment to what our foundation is as a nation. And I think that's really, really good. And it's one of the reasons I'm so proud to partner with these guys, the Herzog Foundation, because they know a whole lot about the best educational path forward for your children, or maybe your grandchildren. If you're curious about whether or not you should be pursuing a Christian education, I mean, I'd say number one, yes, but check them out, because they've got a ton of resources at herzogfoundation.com. Herzogfoundation.com. They are the trusted source for American K through 12 private education. They have tremendous resources there for parents and for grandparents to learn more about making that transition out of public schools into Christian schools. They have an online publication called The Lion. They've got a new podcast, Making the Leap, and they can really guide you through this, because it's not an easy process, I know. And it's never easy to move or change. I know it's hard on kids, but if you're contemplating this, these guys can help. Herzog Foundation, go to herzogfoundation.com. You know, it's really important to make the right decisions for your children. I know, look, I've got 3 of them, and none of this is easy, right? None of it's easy, but Herzog Foundation can help. So go check it out and learn how your child could flourish in a Christian educational environment. herzogfoundation.com. Karen Bass needs to resign. Okay, I think she's going to have to resign. I don't know if they can do a special election on the mayor thing. They can for Gavin, but it's over. I showed you guys a little bit of a clip the other day, but I actually, forgive me, I didn't show you the whole thing because I hadn't seen the beginning of it, and it's worth watching. So she lands in the airport from Ghana, where she was spending New Year's, because she loves to travel. New York Times just did a big piece. Oh my goodness, does Karen Bass love to travel? When she was in Congress, you see, she was on some kind of international committee. They got to go here, there, and everywhere. And so, you know, when she became LA mayor, she said her biggest challenge was going to be not being able to travel. Oh, but don't think Karen got slowed down. No, she went over to Paris twice, like in the last few months. She went for the Paris Olympics. And then she was over there in Ghana, because there was a new president being elected. I mean, this woman clearly does not want to be the mayor of LA, certainly doesn't want to be bothered with these windstorms that can turn into massive fires. Here she is coming back to the airport. Sky News caught up with her. I had not seen the beginning of this clip. I mean, it's devastating. This has ended her political career. She should just bow out now. Watch.
Madam Mayor, David Blevins from Sky News in the UK. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that? Have you no response to that? Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
Silence.
Have you nothing to say today?
Apparently nothing.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today?
It's like she's having a
Elon
stroke.
Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
Unbelievable.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
No. Crazy. And there she is with her handlers who are trying to protect her from the reporters' questions, which are natural questions that need to be asked, as she marches out of there. I mean, wow. You know, the people of LA should be furious. The people of LA should be disgusted.
As you return.
Nothing to say. absolutely nothing, positively nothing to say.
Deal with the catastrophe.
It's gross. It's really, 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 really gross. You know, there's a California pastor in Southern California who was just dynamite, and he spoke about this at his sermon just yesterday. And let me tell you, this guy nails it. He totally, utterly nails it beautifully. This is the entire problem. You keep putting these idiots in office, and what are you getting in return? Some kind of third world country. That's what you're getting.
We have watched the absolute exposure of the most incompetent, reserve your applause to the end. Nobody can hide from this. Nobody can hide from it. There's no excuses. This is the most wealthiest state in the 50. We pay the most in taxes, we pay the most in gas, we pay the most in electricity. You name it, if it's in California, we pay the most for it. Why? Why? Because of our government. Why? Because of things that Sacramento does because they can. Our flag of this state is an absolute abject lie. The flag says California Republic. It is not. A republic is where the people decide and the people have their way. What has happened to California? And you prove me wrong. I challenge you today, if you don't like what I'm about to say. California has been under unmitigated Democrat 100% power control. Democrat. Supermajority. What does that mean, supermajority? It means nobody can oppose their decision making. And now you've got it. You've got a situation where a catastrophe came and the billions of dollars that you and I gave was diverted to other woke, stupid Democrat projects. That's not hyperbole, it is a fact. You don't like it, change your party. If you don't like it, change different. But I'm telling you right now, I'm upset and I'm angry, and it's the right kind of anger. I'm telling you this right now. When you open up a fire hydrant and nothing comes out, and then Joe Biden says, it's because we need electricity. It was turned off for the fire hydrant to turn on. In some cases, that might be true. If the fire hydrants are on top of a mountain, you need a motor to drive the water up. That's extremely rare, and it wasn't the case in these fires. Bad management, horrific politicians who took your money and took trips like Karen Bass, the mayor of LA. She decided to go to Africa the week of the fires to be on a little trip that you paid for. She was really put out when she was told to come home. It didn't look bad. I mean, it didn't look good, that it looked very bad. You've got Gavin Newsom flying down here and then at a command center laughing it up with some people, and it's caught on tape, while he spends 9 point so many millions of probably your dollars to buy himself a new house. It's time to replace the leadership in California. You don't need any more examples. These fires could have been stopped.
Yeah. They could have been stopped, but that would have required having a team on the ground that actually cared about stopping them. I mean, somebody in the chat I saw, you were saying, is this negligence? Was it deliberate? I don't think it was deliberate. But, you know, you got to start to wonder, at some point, that negligence becomes in some ways seemingly deliberate, right? Like, what kind of penalty should these people be paying? There's a woman who's in charge of the water system. Did you see this? Unbelievable. She's making like $750K a year. She's in charge of the water. Obviously, she couldn't do her job. That's pretty damn evident because, well, she's got a bunch of other priorities too. You know, everybody's like stuck on some ridiculous priority that really has nothing to do with getting the water out to the houses that need to be saved.
You call it powered by equity, and I know that it's been really important for the DWP to put an equity lens on everything.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the number one thing that attracted me to this role. Coming from the communities that I come, seeing what I've seen through my career in utilities and through the military. I've been in the Coast Guard 19 and a half years now, so I got 6 more months to qualify for my 20 years, which was my original goal.
Wow, congratulations, thank you for your service.
Thank you. It's important to me that everything we do, it's with an equity lens and social justice and making sure that we right the wrongs that we've done in the past from an infrastructure perspective, and that we involve the community in that process. And this utility is serious about it, is authentic about it. And so I'm just super excited to be part of that movement.
Yeah, I don't think that worked out so well. How about we just focus on doing our jobs? Okay, why don't we focus on making sure that there's water in the hydrants, that there's a way to get more water into the hydrants, that we don't care more about the fish than we do anything else. By the way, quick shout out to another one of our great sponsors, Balance in Nature. You know this, guys. I take my Balance in Nature every day, my fruits and veggies. 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceinnature.com. Use my name, Trish, for your chance, not your chance. You will get. It's like a game show, right? You will get 35% off your whatever you want to get there. I get my fruits and veggies, my gummies. They're gluten-free for those that care. Go check them out. Balanceinnature.com. There's just so many wonderful, wonderful testimonials. They've been in business for decades. They've just got a great, great product, a lot of great products. That's what I take, the fruits and veggies. It comes to your door every month. Free shipping as well. If you use my code TRISH, you help the show, you help me, you help yourself. So 35% off today at balanceofnature.com. I'll say this, California, it's so messed up that you're now looking at a situation on the ground where people are looting tremendously. I mean, they have curfews, they've had to bring in the National Guard, but it's so bad and it's so out of control that we got this from local authorities.
Criminal activity. We had several more arrests overnight, bringing our total to approximately, I'm going to say approximately because we're still trying to reconcile numbers, about 29. 25 in the Eaton Fire area and 4 in the Palisades area. I'm going to guess that Chief McDonald may talk about this, but when I was out there in the Malibu area, I saw a gentleman that looked like a firefighter, and I asked him if he was okay because he was sitting down. I didn't realize we had him in handcuffs. We were turning him over to LAPD because he was dressed like a fireman, and he was not. He just got caught burglarizing a home. So those are issues that our frontline deputies and police officers are dealing with.
Think of that. They're dressing up as firefighters so that they can loot homes. They found a couple of them right outside Kamala Harris's home. All these people that are so keen on, we need to bring everybody in. We don't need to care about who's here, whether they have criminal records. In 2 of these situations now, they believe they are illegal migrants that may have had a hand in setting these fires. I'm sorry, we need to get tough. We need, as a nation, to be tougher. We need to confront reality, or we are going to find ourselves in a really bad spot really fast. My friend Jesse Waters over on Fox, he said this well.
I know we're in the middle of Jesse on Jesse action, but let's hear from Jesse Waters.
I was loving that action. Jesse. I mean, I have press releases from the state, from the DOJ. California sues Trump administration to block water rules. Attorney General Becerra files lawsuit against Trump administration. They're trying to send water from the north to the south, and they're suing them to stop it because of fish that no one eats, Jessica. That's all we're saying. That's what we're saying. We're saying that the guy can't run the state, and he's sitting there with his hands in his pockets. And you're bringing up the homeless. There's a good chance the homeless started this fire. Did you know that 54% of the fires that the LA Fire Department respond to were started by the homeless? And we're spending more money on the homeless than we are on stopping these fires, Jessica. This guy is a bad executive, and he wants to run for president, and he's got no army behind him. Bezos is gone. Bezos is in Mar-a-Lago. Zuckerberg's at Mar-a-Lago. Who's going to stand with Newsom while everything's burnt to a crisp? Nobody.
Not his wealthy billionaire donors who used to have homes. They're certainly not going to stand with him and bankroll his presidential run. I think this hurts his legacy, and I don't think he rebounds from this.
Jessica,
and I hope he doesn't.
Whoever smelt it, dealt it.
And with that bit of logic, we move on.
Okay. So, point being, Gavin Newsom is going to get recalled. Watch. Okay, mark my words. Happened to Governor Davis, it's going to happen to Gavin Newsom. And on the plus side, you don't have to worry about him being the president of the United States, because it seemed like at one point he was their next best thing, right? He was going to fix it all for the Democrats. Not happening. It's over. Finito. Complete. What's so crazy to me, though, is all of this awfulness is going on, and yet California somehow finds time, their assembly finds time to allocate more money to go after Donald Trump with more lawsuits. More. I mean, they've already got 100. They've sued him 100 times. California is so proud of that. They're like, Letitia, I've sued him hundreds of times. Well, California's like, we've done it too, and we need more money to do it some more. This is a reporter confronting the Assembly Speaker in a special legislative session on Friday. You know, they're supposed to be focused on the fires, and he comes out to talk about the fires, but it turns out, what were they doing that special legislative session? They were also earmarking money to go after Donald Trump.
I could take a couple of questions. I do have to jump on a call here in a few minutes.
With that, I mean, with what you just mentioned and kicked off here, is now the right time to have a special legislative session on allocating money to fight Trump in a way that you could already do without a special legislative session?
So I'm here to address these wildfires. This is a historic wildfire. This is a historic event. These wildfires, as I mentioned, are going to be quite possibly some of the worst wildfires and disasters in state and in national history.
While this wildfire is happening, and while people are trying to understand what's going on and are worried about disaster relief, worried about the ability to get homeowners insurance, your chamber gavelled into a special legislative session to prepare for Donald Trump in a way that you are already able to do without a special legislative session. So again, is now the right time for that?
So certainly our focus right now is Speaker Ashley. At this moment, my colleagues and I, we are acting with great urgency to ensure that we're providing much needed relief to Angelenos, to ensure that we understand what it's going to take for this region to recover, and to support those that have been most impacted.
Okay, blah 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 blah. So she's making the point, and I know it was hard to hear that a little bit, but she's like, wait, why? Why are you having a special legislative session and dealing with earmarking money to go after Donald Trump when you ought to have one focus? Well, we know why. Politics. This is perhaps one of the most disgusting political stories I've ever seen. Gavin Newsom caught, in my words, in my estimation, effectively stealing money from people that would be trying to donate to victims of the wildfires for his own campaign. You see, he's got some website about fighting California Fire Facts, or California Fire Facts, I think it's called. But it's not actually California Fire Facts. I mean, you can go there and it will take you to GavinNewsom.com. And here we are. California cut firefighting budgets. That's a lie. I'm not so sure about that, at least in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, they cut it by some 15 million. She wanted to cut it by 32 million. One Karen Bass. Anyway, it goes on and on. He's trying to fight the media at this point in time. And so he's got all his facts. And then you see there's a big sign here where you can contribute to the California Fire Foundation. Well, that sounds like a nice thing, doesn't it? Wouldn't you want to contribute to the California Fire Foundation right about now? Donate to California Fire Foundation. So I click on it. You can give $5, $25, $100, $250, $500. I click on it, and where does it take me? Ta-da-da! To Secure Act Blue. Okay, Secure Act Blue is a Democrat run super PAC. And then when you click on this here and you look at the fine print, it turns out it's going to Gavin's super PAC. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. He's trying to get you to contribute to the California Fire Foundation by telling you you can get all the information about the California fires, and then while you're there, contribute to the Fire Foundation, and it turns out you're just contributing to his political career, to his pockets. And that is disgusting, and that is gross, and that is what is wrong with California. So unbelievably wrong. And so, yes, he needs to be recalled, and he needs to be sent packing for good. He's done in politics. Mark my words. You know what? I've been very generous to him in the past. I even said the Democrats should run him. I said they ought to primary Joe Biden with one Gavin Newsom. He can't ever use him again in politics. He's finished. He's done. It's over. That's the good news. But this is gross, right? The New York Post is reporting on the sparking outrage for soliciting donations to LA wildfire victims via his super PAC. I mean, you want to talk murky, disgusting, gross, California sleazeball politics. You're looking at it. Gavin Newsom should be ashamed. Gavin Newsom should resign. Karen Bass should resign. The 750K woman who's supposed to be in charge of water needs to resign. And don't sit there and tell me that this is the fault of the insurance companies. No. The insurance companies, by the way, guys, went in and said, State Farm did, gee, we're not really loving these forestation levels. We don't think we can actually insure these things. Don't you think if you were Gavin Newsom or you were Karen Bass and you've got State Farm saying we can't insure, that maybe it might be a wake-up call to do something? They're going to watch. They're going to try and blame the insurance companies. They're going to blame everybody they can. Blame them. Don't let them fool you. This idiot, Gavin Newsom's out doing a podcast for 45 minutes. For God's sakes, his state is burning to the ground and he's got time to go on some super duper liberal podcast. That's a picture of him on the podcast. It's gross. He is a grifter. He needs to be out of politics. We need to get rid of all these people. Okay? No more. Vote them out. Kamala's no bad. I mean, I thank God Kamala's not our president. She's been caught grifting as well. Gosh, she's taking a page out of Newsom's book. Here we go. People are kind of mad at Kamala Harris because you see those that donated to her campaign, what was it, $1.4 billion that she raised? Because, you know, she had to pay for Lizzo and Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all these fancy celebrities, right? So a lot of her money, Oprah, oh, how could I forget Oprah, who reportedly, according to the New York Times, got $2 million out of this deal. Not bad. Apparently your opinion's for sale if you're a Hollywood celeb. And Kamala pays top dollar off the backs of the hard-working American taxpayers that she's promising to do things for. Well, Kamala is still charging her donors. So, you know, if you signed up, you're going to give $25 a month. Apparently, you're giving $25 a month in perpetuity. You didn't read the fine print. I mean, gross. She's not even running for office anymore. This should be illegal. How is this not illegal? Here's a comment from a person who worked on Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign saying the charges are super shady and called it grift. Yeah, you think? Grift, shady, disgusting, grossness. That's who they are. And you know what? They're out telling you Donald Trump's this, that, and the other. The guy's not even taking a salary. Okay, he's not even taking $1. Working as our president, yet he's being fined some $500 million by the state of New York. We got to get our priorities right, I'll tell you. We do. And I think they're coming. I think we're going to see good things ahead, really, really good things ahead. It's one of the reasons why I want you to be invested in this tremendous time, because there's a lot of good that's going to come of this. We created the Invest in MAGA guide for you. It's totally free. And it gives you a synopsis of the sectors and some of the companies that are going to be best poised in this new environment with a new sheriff in town, with new priorities, the right priorities to put America first. Go to investinmaga.com for more information today. And I'll tell you, this is Rob, who's on the picture with me, Rob Horton, a dear friend who worked 2 decades on Wall Street picking stocks, and he's brilliant at it. So I'm thrilled to be teamed up with him for 76 Research. We have the free guide, Invest in MAGA. You can do the dollar guide. Just use code word dollar. We have a new report coming out today specifically on housing, because what's going to happen in terms of this rebuilding effort. I would say this, you know what? This is kind of good that we have Donald Trump in there right now, because he is a builder, right? He's a developer, so he gets this. He's talked a lot about creating opportunity zones. He did so in his last administration in Detroit, which was very, very beneficial to that community that had that opportunity zone. So maybe there's a way to actually even relocate some of those people out of California to big, grand, beautiful new cities where maybe you can have some single homes. I know that they don't want any single homes anywhere, right? Like that's no-go territory, because we need to build up and have institutions that people live in. I think single home ownership would be great, and you can put more of it in the Midwest and some of these great states that are doing good things. So check out 76research.com today for a look at the home builders and what may be coming for them, as well as investinmaga.com. I'll tell you, it is great to have you. This is a long show today, was it not? Oh my goodness, a really, really long show, but we got more than 4,000 likes. How about that? And you know what, guys? Did I show you this? I don't know if I showed you this the other day. If I have this graphic, I have it. Okay. So on Christmas Eve, I went to bed and this was what I saw. 499,905. And then on Christmas Day, I woke up to that, 500,174. So we are growing. We are growing so fast. It's all thanks to you. This is sort of subscriber by subscriber. There's no marketing. I don't even have a website yet, working on that. And it's just because you come here every day because you want truth and you want transparency. And you know, if there's one thing I can promise you, it's that. Sometimes I give a little too much of it. It can get me in a little bit of trouble, shall we say. It always has along the way. But you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it, because freedom matters. Your freedom matters. My freedom matters. America's freedom matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't, make sure you do. And I'll be back again live tomorrow.